the issue, but I will grab it here, paste it over here, one of these there, and it looks like we're live. Attention, everyone. Welcome to another OpenJS Foundation's cross-project council meeting. Today is the first day of the month of September in the year 2020. Thanks for joining. And yeah, like I said, throw your name in that list in the minutes. And of course, please help us take minutes. Michael Dawson sends his regards. He's not able to join today. I think he sometimes helps with meeting notes too, so people can help fill that void with other folks who are taking notes. That would be great. The more the merrier. Do we have any announcements before we get into the agenda?
Yes, we do.
Great.
Tomorrow we have an AMA with the ESLint team, and we just are super stoked to have Kai and another key contributor from the ESLint community participating in that AMA. So please tune in or send your questions in advance or send them out on Twitter, but tell your friends. ESLint is a super cool project. We're so thrilled they're in our group. And if you want to say hey?
Yeah. Yeah, think of your questions now. Abstract syntax tree, get all your questions answered. Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind, or someone wouldn't mind, dropping an alert into the Slack when it's going on, that might actually, alert me. I'd love
Great
to
idea.
Join in there.
Yeah, and then another just heads up, this was cool. We published one of our first developer profiles on message format and Emily earlier today. It's awesome. It's awesome read. So if you don't mind giving that a read and a retweet, that'd be great. Spread some message format love.
Cool.
Meetings wise, we don't have any other OpenJS Foundation meetings on deck for this week that are community driven, but we do have a Doodle Poll out that Sarah Chips has sent around to our group on the supporter program. So please remember to fill out that Doodle Poll and let us know if you can attend a meeting on JavaScript Landia.
More to explore there. So much to explore. Cool. Rachel or Mary, would you like to maybe share anything about the survey? Did we talk about that already? I don't know. That seems like something worth mentioning.
We talked about it briefly, I think, in previous meetings, but we did close it out last Monday, I believe, and we surpassed the response goal by, I think, over 500, which is great. And so we have downloaded all of that data, and we are going through that now to kind of come to some conclusions. I'm going to pause there because I would love for, if Mary has anything to say, I would love for that.
So I shared the results with TSC, and now we are preparing for a vote on that issue. And we also are analyzing some of the data, trying to get some correlation between responses. And once we have more analysis, we are going to share the results more broadly. But for now, we are just sharing it on the GitHub request. We expect the voting to happen in 1 or 2 weeks. And it's still planned to define the default before the next major release.
Great, exciting. If there's anything more that would be helpful for that TSC analysis, definitely let us know. I know we have that Slack channel going, so we can talk about it more there.
Yeah. So when Rachel talked about surpassing the goals, we had what, over 2,000 responses, which was phenomenal. So it's something that we're looking at doing for other projects as well. So if you know of a project that may be interested in doing a poll, it looks like it looks like we can provide a lot of value to the projects, and there's quite a bit of interest in providing that feedback that way. So it's good.
Yeah, I'm glad that I think it went pretty smoothly. I think the plan is to have another blog post wrap up once some votes have happened, decisions have been made, and such. So I think the whole thing has gone really well, and it's good. Cool. Anything else announcement wise? If not, I will dive into the agenda here. Let me look at something really quickly. All right, that's already at the end. Marcin, I think, is going to try to join, but he might be late. So we'll do the security disclosures at the end, which it already is. Cool. So first up on the agenda is approving project charters is clunky in issues. I created this a week ago out of our discussion in the meeting. Emily and Tierney kind of had a couple of ideas. I think the thought is to either revive the projects.md file or to add like a link to the charter in the README. For context, we've been approving charters in issues, and it's just not really clear approval. It'd be better if it was in some sort of pull request, and we can see actual approvals in the UI and such. Excuse me. I'm wondering, and we can discuss this more here or discuss it more in the issue, but I like the idea of just having it in the README. Currently, we just have a list of the projects broken up by their status. And excuse me, I really have something in my throat. I wondered about even, and maybe this is going too far, but taking that list, maybe making it into a table and add a link to the charter, maybe a link to anything else that might be helpful. And some things that come to mind is like code of conduct, maybe contributing, a couple of links there, and maybe even a small version of the logo, right? Do we have, I remember Brian going through the process of gathering logos. Maybe that would be a thing that would be good. I don't know. Yeah, they're on this page here.
I love that idea. I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that really kind of just helps, prevent people from feeling like they have to go down rabbit holes to chase certain information here, or here. I think a table of this information would be really useful.
Cool. Oh yeah, and then there's the artwork. That's right, we have a whole artwork directory or repo. Excellent. Cool. Well, I'll maybe comment on that issue, and maybe we can start to flesh that out, and then it would make sense to when you are, and I don't know if we need to look at the documentation, because I guess the PR, it could be just one PR that gets charter approval and promotes the project from incubating to whatever stage they're going to. Do it all in one swoop, and just have it timed accordingly. We might need to update the documentation, but I think that sort of makes sense.
I like that as well, because then what we can do is just create basically a PR like template, right? That says when you're doing this, the following things are happening. This is getting updated in the README. We're approving your charter. And anything else, and that approval of that PR satisfies all of that. I like that. Yeah,
even the code of conduct. Yeah, that'll be good. All right, cool. So I'll try to double back and comment that in the issue, or if someone wants to do it, feel free to. I'd be happy to have that done. and then we can start a PR that would convert that list into a table. And everybody everybody loves a table in Markdown, but you know, whatever, we'll figure it out. Cool. Party. Great, moving on. The next item on the agenda is, should we share voting result details? And if so, how? This is issue 629. I created the issue, but it was basically something that was brought up by Emily in the call. I see, let me promote March in here while I noticed it. There's some comments here. Does anybody want to update so I don't have to read this in front of everyone? Brian, some people are agreeing to you. Do you have comments?
Just observing that there can potentially be some unintended consequences of certain levels of transparency. I mean, in general, we tend to lean towards being more transparent versus less transparent. But the main concern that I had heard from talking with some folks and that I tried to articulate here is that we wouldn't want to inadvertently discourage people from continuing to run for future elections if they weren't the winning candidate. And so, you know, attempting to strike a balance here is really the goal. Yeah. Toby had a good comment on there as well. If we're using ranked choice voting, which we are, there's not really a whole lot that can be gained necessarily from posting this other than seeing what the process was like for the ranking. And if there were something that would happen, like for example, if somebody were to bow out right at the end of the election, or if for some reason they were to be ineligible, then it's a much more complicated calculation than just going to the second place person. So if in the event that we do really need to go back in and see how things work though, foundation staff, which cannot vote, would be able to go in and take a look as well. So that's I think maybe summarizes up the stream of comments up to that point. Is there anything else anybody would like to add?
I would add.
Go ahead, Miles.
I would just add really quickly that I think, well, it does make sense in this context to not share the results by default. I do think that, like, for the sake of transparency, perhaps we do need to think about a way to make the results available in the case of a request, or in the case of, you know, like, I guess we're using tools, and the tools give us, you know, like a pretty clear insight, but like some information may be useful rather than like how many people voted for each people. It might be useful to know, well, like what percentage of the CPC actually voted. So, well, I think for the context and the scope of this, like we don't need to dig too much more. I do want to kind of leave the door open for us to explore some of these statistics that aren't about the results, that might still be useful information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think even just knowing how you know, what sort of percentage of the group voted, I think would be informative. Excuse me. All right. Well, we can keep that in mind in future elections, and maybe even you know, clearly state up front what the expectations are in terms of information sharing.
I think, you know, data about, you know, participation seems easy enough to share. Like, you know, there were 15 eligible voters and so many of them, X many of them voted, and they all voted within the first 3 days, you know, something of that sort. Like that seems generically useful. One of the questions I had was whether, you know, because to Miles's point about requesting information being available on request, does that extend to a candidate who would like to know what their results were privately? Do we want to, you know, say yes to that request if that person asks it of a foundation staff, or no?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I just have one thing. If by showing the results, like what I don't want us to be discouraging folks from applying again. Like, you know, if people see that, oh, this guy, you know, X person got so many votes while the others barely got any votes. Well, I don't want to discourage anyone from retrying or reapplying. So that's the only concern I have. I think that if need be, someone asks us personally to share the results, we can send it to the individual. But I feel that sharing it as like a whole to the public to go and look at it, that is something I would just refrain from. That's just my thought on this.
Yeah, I think we agree, Divya. And maybe sharing privately is okay if someone individually requests it. I'm still a little hesitant about that, but I think maybe it's, I'm not sure how much harm there is there.
I would question is, sorry, go ahead, Miles.
No, please go for it, Toby.
No, seriously.
Hi.
Good old-fashioned Canadian standoff.
I mean, I'm Swiss and I lived in Canada, so.
The thing I was going to say really quickly there was like, I think that being kind to people is definitely a really great goal to have up and until the point that it becomes paternalistic. Like if folks genuinely want to know these things so that they can improve or understand what happened, I don't think it's like our place to like withhold that information to make them feel better. Mm-hmm. So I personally do feel it would be appropriate, and maybe this is worth documenting, that if a candidate wants to know what percentage of the votes they received, without disclosing more information than that, I think that is a very fair thing to give to a candidate who's interested.
Yeah. Toby?
Yeah, no, I think that Miles covered what I wanted to say, and I don't want to go any further.
That's why I was going to let you go first.
I wasn't going to say that, though. I wasn't going to say what you said. I just I don't want to make my point now.
Oh, okay.
But I agree with what you said. I just think, like, you know, having thought through what I was going to say, it's not worth saying.
Okay, fair enough. I think maybe a breakdown by suburban and urban, kind of, you know, that might be informative. But other than that, never mind. Sorry, that's bad US politics. Anyway, all right, cool. So, yeah.
How do we action this? What would you like to record as the action here? Joe.
Sure. I guess the consensus is that we will not share specific details on results, but are happy to share other data points that might be informative to you know, the work that we're doing, such as, you know, percentage of CPC members voted, and perhaps how quickly or whatnot. But, you know, I guess some of that is still, you know, we can continue to think about, but I think in general, leaving the specific details as private makes sense unless specifically requested individually. Did I summarize that accurately? Does anybody have anything to add?
We need to record this somewhere.
It's probably a good idea, right? I mean, I think there is a whole section on voting in our governance or something, right? You know, we like to document things. Just looking real quickly. No, not there. Thought we had something. Maybe it's even in the charter, which would be a whole nother can of worms. There is a section 7 of the charter is elections. I don't know if we want to document it there, or if we want to have a section in the governance that would outline some of this stuff. Anybody have any preference or thoughts?
My preference would be, you know, to the extent that we can avoid a protracted, you know, thing. let's avoid that.
Yeah.
And put it in the governance document if we can find a good spot for it.
I agree. We can maybe mention, the tool that we've decided on, or any other election specific stuff there, without going overboard. All right, cool. If somebody wouldn't mind kind of, either copying and pasting from the notes into that issue or something, some comment on that issue would probably be helpful, I do believe. And I see someone highlighting the whole section. So great, thank you, Anonymous Mink. Moving on, the next item is pull request 618. This is add IP policy guidance. And if I'm not mistaken, getting to the bottom, Toby, you have a new pull request open, is that right? You want to give us an update?
Which one is which now? I'm always confused.
Yeah, good question.
No, I think this is the right one. 618 is the last one.
Oh,
and as far as I'm concerned, that is ready to land. I would like to get notably Chris Mills to have a look at it before, because he had a change request that Brian, him and I discussed, and we were disagreeing with Chris's request. And so would like him to either resend it or, I mean, we have to, like, we can't merge this without Chris having made a decision about whether he's fine with not making the change he requested or
is this Chris Hiller? Is that
Miller?
Chris
Hiller?
Mill.
Borchers? We don't have Chris Mills. Chris Mills is from MDN.
No, Chris Miller?
Hiller.
Hiller.
Sorry, folks. I apologize, Chris. Bone Skull is, yeah. Thank you. That's what I meant. I'm really sorry.
No worries, no worries. Cool. Chris, I don't know if you have any comment or if you just want to look at the pull requests and go from there.
And there's a few other people whose review I requested who had reviewed or commented the previous pull request that haven't replied. It would be, I think it would be great to have them look at it. Yeah.
Jordan and Chris Borchers are on there. Chris, I will paste this into the chat. This is pull request 618. Chris Hiller asks about. Yeah, Jordan, Chris Borchers, Anton is on here as well. So yeah, if we get some more folks wrapping that up, that would be great. This is added 20 days ago. Some good conversation.
Chris, I think this is the one where you'd asked, it was about updating formerly accurate copyright lines to current information, whether that was something you could do or something that you must do. Does that sound familiar, Jay?
Absolutely. That's the precise line. Yes.
That was the one. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to be clear, is this PR changing the requirements or merely trying to document them?
It's documenting. So this doesn't actually change policy, but it's the policy itself is not short. And so the goal was to make it a little easier to interpret.
Cool.
So more actionable for maintainers.
Toby, the thing is you're waiting on me for is that you're suggesting to move the DCO guidance into a separate pull request.
No, it's not. Let me. It's a very specific line that Brian just mentioned, and that my last comment actually references it.
I just pasted a link to the comment thread in the file view, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not the right spot.
That's exactly it.
So cool. All right, well, we can take this offline if folks can take a look at it, and we can move it forward, assuming it's good to go and people work through it. Cool. All right, great. Just making sure. let me check my list here. Oh, Sarah's not here. That's too bad. I get excited about the next one. This is 607, issue 607, next steps for supporter program. As Jory mentioned earlier, there is an email out for, Sarah's mentioning a doodle here in the description, but that was for the previous one, right?
There's a new Doodle poll that was sent to the CPC email list, which is probably a better way to capture responses to Doodle polls. So
Yep.
Y'all should respond to that if you are. I think you might be available for that call sometime in the next couple of weeks to move things forward on next steps there.
Yep. And then there is a related PR for the supporter program that Sarah opened up 12 days ago. I pasted it into the chat, 625. This is, documenting the progress that we've been making. This is still in stage 1 of the supporter program, but further kind of fleshing out some of the things that we discussed in the last meeting. And, it'd be great to have this landed before our upcoming meeting. So I encourage folks to take a look, comment, add your inputs, your thoughts, your support for the supporter program, what have you. Great. All right. Well, we'll move on from there unless anybody has anything else they want to add. You want to talk about JavaScript Landia for a while, which should be cool. Next up on the agenda is issue 599 to talk about an earlier CPC time, which we tried a bit ago. And I actually created an issue just to kind of surface this to the top. We decided in our last meeting, I believe it was, that we would alternate for 2 meeting slots of an earlier time. So we've been doing 1600 and 1800, and we're going to try 1400 and 1800 for the next 2 earlier meetings. And what I mean by that is we're doing the 1800 now. Next week we'll do 1400. The week after we'll go back to 1800 like we normally would, like the 1800 slot is not interrupted. And then after that we would do another 1400. And I believe from there, evaluate how that earlier time slot is doing. And, I think it would be helpful if folks could spread the word and make sure people are aware, and particularly folks who this time zone would be helpful to. And we can just evaluate if it's, which is better and how things are working. We could try other times if it makes sense. I don't know, whatever. Any thoughts, comments, questions, things we should discuss? No? Cool. We'll just keep moving on. Great. So next week I will see you a little bit earlier. But continuing on, issue 592 is develop annual review process for projects. This was opened up a couple of months ago. And I know that Toby and Chris Hiller have put a little bit of work into this, some associated issues, growth project goal setting plan, formalized project champion mentor role are a couple of them. Does anyone want to give us an update or anything more on this?
Yes, I actually sent a doodle literally 35 minutes ago.
Fantastic.
To organize the first meetings for that.
Great.
Would other people, like, I actually send it only to the people that had requested to get sent to. Would other people be interested? Should I share it maybe in the minutes here? Or what's your suggestion for that?
I would say send it round to CPC private to make sure that anybody who may have missed it on a meeting or something can do that, and if you want to link it in the minutes, that'd be great too. There's no harm to that.
Great.
Sounds good. We'll do. Thanks.
Excellent. Cool. All right, great. Yeah, I look forward to that. I think it'll be, I think it's a healthy, productive thing to go through this process. So thank you for driving that, Toby and Chris and everyone else. Cool. Moving on. Issue 583 is updating the CLA to the Apache style ICLA and CCLA. It's been around for a little bit. I think this is, where are we at with this? I removed the CPC agenda label, but then I put it right back on. Or no, I guess I put it back on 14 days later. What's our, where are we at, Brian? I'm calling you.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
It's the CLA, ICLA, CCLA issue. That one. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I was pulled away on an email.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah, so at this point, it's just really a matter of getting this, getting it scheduled with the legal committee. I keep saying that I was going to do that, and I it keeps dropping off my list, but I will definitely get this done. Other than that, the other piece of this, which was briefly mentioned earlier, is putting together the guidance for how to actually implement this in the context of choosing between using the DCO or having tooling for using a CLA. So that is now linked to this, and it's something I can take care of as well.
It's 632.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. All right, great. Thank you. I'm gonna keep your attention, Mr. Brian Warner. The next item on the list is pull request 547, governance changes for the collaboration network. Michael is not able to make it today, but he messaged me and said that I think he's waiting for text from you, if I'm not mistaken, Brian.
I'm just having a look to see. Oh, yes.
Sorry to put you on the
there
spot
is.
twice in a row.
No, that's fine. I can get that written this afternoon. I'll just do that
Cool.
right after this call. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yep. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate all that you do. Great. So we will look at that more next week. And I will jump to the next agenda item, the final agenda item. Marcin, this is the responsible security disclosures issue and related pull requests and stuff. Do you want to give us an update?
Sure. So in the course of moving this to stage 3, I actually went through all the CPC documents in order to identify places where this new policy should be plugged in. Let me actually take a look at the PR and list the places that I touched very, very briefly. So I added a security policy element to the new project application document. I think the document that I extended the most, which is the changing like literally 3 lines, was the project progression document. And apart from that, it was really just minor moving documents here and there. And there's actually a second PR that I put out to the issue template in the project onboarding repo. So those 2 PRs are kind of related. And I would be very grateful for feedback. There's nothing that's changed in the actual content of the proposal. It's now hopefully plugged into the project journey.
Cool. Yeah. There's not a lot to review here, so if folks can take a look. We're kind of at the final stage here of moving this forward. I threw the pull requests, both of them, into the chat for folks to take a look. And yeah, it would be great to move this forward. Thanks for all your work on this, Martin.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think when this lands, what I'm going to do is, like before I started on this, I did a little assessment on the security reporting mechanisms for, I think, growth and more mature projects. So I'll probably do it once again to see where we are.
Great, thank you. Cool. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Just thank you. I think that's super helpful. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, agreed.
As I said, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to have this.
Yep. Cool. Well, that's the end of our agenda. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
I'd like to just quickly say, Joe, how much I appreciate all the hard work you do.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Oh, huh. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Miles. Cool. I'm looking at issues. Nothing jumps out at me. I'm looking at pull requests, and nothing jumps out at me except that Mary taking over for Mateo has been open for 7 days, which I think the changing of an impact voting member, is it only 7 days? I think it needs to be opened and fully approved. Anybody double check me on that? Because I'd love to take this opportunity, especially since Mary is here, to welcome her as a voting member representing Node at the CPC. Woo!
I see no reason why it needs to wait. So, yay!
Yay! Thank you, Mary. I'm happy to have you. Excellent. Cool. I will, we can land that. I just kind of want to double check the documentation, even though I agree with Jory, but I think we switched some other, a different member at one point and we did document it. So I will take a look at that. But if I remember correctly, it was a week. But beyond that, is there anything else anyone wants to discuss? Do we have anything we should take into a private session or anything like that? Or do we get 14 minutes back?
Joe, can you throw the link to the Google Doc in the chat, please?
Oh, sure thing. That is right there. Cool. Well, I guess if we don't have anything, we can call it a wrap, friends. It's been a pleasure. Always is. I will see you all next week, if not sooner. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, y'all.
Adios. Sweeping up back there.